There are certain individuals who have made a real difference in the fabric of the Chicago legal community. George Leighton is one of those individuals. He became a lawyer when there weren't many black lawyers, and when black people in general were not treated equally. Yet, he broke through barriers and made a successful career for himself, while at the same time, he fought for equality for people throughout the country. Now, at age 97, he's of counsel to Neal and Leroy, which he joined in 1987 after retiring from 23 combined years of service as judge on the state and federal benches.
I was working as a child laborer on a cranberry bog in southeastern Massachusetts. And I was, as I recall, about 12 years old. Only people who know cranberry bogs would understand when I say that it was a hot August afternoon. The sun was hitting on my head, and I was kneeling on this bog, weeding it. And cranberry vines are tough. They eat whatever they touch. So I was there suffering the pain of the heat and the pain on my knees when I suddenly got the notion that I wanted to be a lawyer. It must have occurred to me as I stood on my knees there in that bog with the sun hitting on my head and the vines eating my knees that there just had to be a better way of earning a living. Finally, in 1936, I applied for admission to Howard University in Washington, D.C., and they wrote back and told me that I couldn't be admitted to Howard because I had never entered a high school. So therefore, I wasn't qualified to be a regular college student at Howard University. And the dean of the College of Liberal Arts notified me that Howard, on June 7, 1940, was going to award me my liberal arts degree from the College of Liberal Arts, magna cum laude. And he also told me that I had earned the right to be considered an applicant to Phi Beta Kappa, which I was. And I was admitted to Phi Beta Kappa. As a result of that, because I had a good academic record, I was successful in getting a scholarship to Harvard Law School. That's how I became a lawyer. Earl Neal's father was practicing law in Chicago when I arrived here, October 14, 1946. And he had an office at 180 West Washington Street. Well, that address was the only building in the Loop in the 1940s that rented to a black lawyer. Black lawyers used to call that building Uncle Tom's Cabin.
Well, my first memory of Judge Leighton is back to about 1956. At that time, our firm, my partners, I wasn't a partner, was a young lawyer. We'd eat at the Chicago Bar Association, 39 South LaSalle. There was a dining room. And I looked across the room, and there was this handsome African-American gentleman, well-dressed. And I said to somebody, "Who is that?" And they said, "That's George Leighton." And that's my first memory of him, because he was so impressive looking, so well-dressed. And the irony, of course, is when he came to Chicago 1946, he could not even join the Chicago Bar because he was African American. He couldn't have an office downtown. He could not eat in a restaurant downtown. And so there he was, and they finally admitted him to the Chicago Bar, and he became a member of the Board of Managers, and obviously one of our most distinguished members. So that's my first memory of Judge Leighton. An African American going to Mississippi was extraordinary and extraordinarily dangerous. He subpoenaed African Americans in that community to come and testify that they were never on a jury, but the United States Marshal refused to serve the subpoenas because he told Judge Leighton if he did, by the time they returned from the courthouse, their houses would be burned down by the Ku Klux Klan. Now, in order to keep him alive, he had to get all these stays of execution from the United States Supreme Court, and he did this all by himself. You know, when Jenner and Block does something, even when I was at Jenner and Block, we had 28 lawyers to start. We had lots of people to work with us. He was working by himself. And he got the conviction reversed because all African Americans were excluded from the jury.
When a group of people, Burt Jenner and George Leighton and several other leading law firm heads, decided that they wanted to form something called the Legal Opportunity Scholarship Program. And I was privileged to participate in it, and George Leighton was at that time a federal judge, and he was a spark plug and an inspiration to the minority students who we were interviewing. The deal was that we had gotten the 5 local law schools to each agree that up to 5 scholarships would be afforded to minority students, and we undertook the financing. And the greatest role model for any of these minority students was George Leighton.
One morning, come into the office at 7 o'clock in the morning, and it was in the winter, so it was dark, and I noticed that the light was on in his office, and I went into his office to say good morning, and he was face down on the floor, and I immediately panicked that something was wrong with him. And just as I was about to go over and check on him, he ripped off another 10 push-ups.
It isn't true just because we differ in the pigmentation of our skin that we differ in ability, capacity, potentiality. No, it doesn't. It isn't true.